Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Infernus, and welcome back to another comic book review, the show where I can't count. So, I believe I said in the Suicide Squad review that was forever ago that was the 30th episode. I was wrong. We were at 31 episodes at that point. Episode 30 was, the cavalcade of suck that was Wonder Woman 1984. So, unfortunately, the trend of reviewing a great DC movie, or even a great movie in general, every 10 episodes was actually broken. It was broken anyways, but now the broken hurts even more. So, yeah, welcome to episode 32. And we're back to Marvel with Venom. So, Venom's an interesting case because this is actually the start of a third cinematic universe in the comic book area. At this point in time, we only had the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. This starts what I call the SSU, or the Sony Spider-Man universe, which we didn't even know at the time was going to be a universe until they started making spin-offs of all their Spider-Man villains, whether that be Venom or Morbius or Kraven coming out this year, Madam Web. I forgot what Donald Glover's character was, what his name was, but him too. So this is certainly an interesting way to kick off that universe, because as it is, it's fine. It's not the worst thing ever. Certainly not the worst thing to come out of the Spider-Man movies. I mean, it's close, but it's still not the worst thing. It's okay. What I'm trying to say is that this movie's kind of a mixed bag. You'd think that for a movie called Venom, the standout characters here would be Eddie Brock and Venom, but actually, I would say the more interesting, more believable dynamic is actually the relationship between Eddie, his ex Anne, his ex Annie, and her boyfriend Dan. I had to say that sentence again because it almost rhymed, and I really don't like it when I rhyme unintentionally. Now, of course, in the first half of the movie, Anne believes that Eddie is, just completely waste of time and doesn't want to be around him. But it's still obvious as you move further into the movie that she still cares about him, because when all these things are happening to him with the symbiote, her and Dan, they're both by his side, like whenever they're willing to help him out with what he's going through. And honestly, that's just a really sweet thing to see in a movie, to see people who, despite all the weird things that Eddie's doing, are willing to stay by his side regardless of his actions. Like when he goes into that fish tank and eats the lobster's head off, Man, I need a script. But he bites the lobster's head off to get its brain. Like, she's freaked out at first, but she calls him later saying like, "Hey, you all right? Everything okay since the incident at the restaurant?" And Dan's just a good guy using his knowledge as a doctor to figure out what's going on with Eddie, even though we know exactly what's going on as Marvel fans. But yeah, if I had to pick a standout character dynamic here, it's with those three. And they're easily what make the movie so interesting to watch, as you see these friends put up with this one guy's bullshit because they care about him. Another thing I'll give this movie credit for is that during some of the action scenes when, Venom reveals himself, they get really creative with the they get creative with the symbiotes in general. Just the way they seep into the skin of the host, or even just like how they function within the host, how they eat everything. But like, especially when it's during that chase scene, they use the symbiote to basically save Eddie's life multiple times. It's very creative and led to that being one of the most enjoyable scenes in the whole movie. Even during the final battle, when you have these two symbiotes fighting each other, it's very interesting to watch how they play around with the symbiotes and the hosts. Now, of course, I would say that I enjoy this movie, but its biggest issue is definitely with the pacing. This feels like it. This kind of feels like two separate scripts that they squished into one movie. They made each script about an hour long in length, and then they kind of just stuck them together. You have on the one hand, you have, guy goes crazy and friends try to help him, and the other half is alien invasion, where the superhero is a guy and one of the aliens is, using him as a host. It feels like two different stories. And it's because they don't really establish either of the big symbiotes in this movie until halfway through the film. So because of that, Riot feels like a rushed threat, and Venom's reasons for staying on Earth and, not killing Eddie, okay, well, really just not staying on Earth, it feels underdeveloped. Like the reason they give for why he stays on Earth is because I like Eddie Brock. He's a cool guy. Please explain. You spent barely any time inside the guy, so please explain how that alone was able to encourage you to keep going. Like, seriously, they don't explore that. And like I said, Riot feels like a rush threat, and there's no real urgency because of it. Now, like I said at the beginning of the not film, review, this movie isn't bad. It's okay for what it is, and certainly on the higher ends of okay. And by higher ends of okay, I mean this is a 2.5 out of 5. But at the same time, there are certainly better entries from franchise like Spider-Man No Way Home. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this review of Venom. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. I'm not going to... I have to remember my own outro. Yeah. I'm not going to bug you with all that generic stuff. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, and Godspeed.